Hello and welcome to another episode of IBI On Site. I'm your host Hayden Grove here at Canal Park, where we've talked a lot about the Rubber Ducks this season thus far. They've been playing very well, but today we're going to take a little bit of a different approach. We're going to talk about the Indians and their statistics thus far this season, and we're also going to take a look at the rebranding efforts of the Rubber Ducks, including the new logo, the new color scheme, and whatnot. So without further delay, let's get right to it. All right, I'm back here with August Fagerstrom of the Akron Beacon Journal and also of Fangraphs, who's done some fantastic work for statistics in terms of the Indians and other teams. Can you introduce yourself a little bit and your work a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, like you said, my name's August. I've been working for the Akron Beacon Journal for about 5 or 6 years now. Been a writer for 2, and just it's about 2 weeks ago I got hired by Fangraphs, so been covering the Ducks this year for the Beacon Journal, and that's me. Yep.
Now, you wrote a piece that I thought was absolutely fantastic on Corey Kluber. Just talk a little bit about what's been so good about him thus far in terms of his statistics. You went really in depth. I want you to get as in depth with us as you did in the piece.
Well, last year Kluber was a guy who he had really good peripherals, a lot of strikeouts, not many walks, limited the homer. ERA didn't quite match what he was doing on the field, really, so he was a little bit undervalued, I think. And then this year, the ERA is really starting to come down. The strikeouts are even up. He's got one of the best cutters in baseball, which is something that I talked about in my piece. He also has a great slurve and can command a two-seamer to work down in the count and get ground balls. So, I mean, he can get strikeouts with the cutter and the slurve. He can get grounders with the two-seamer. There's not much not to like with Kluber this year.
Now, Kluber's a guy that's been excelling. There's a guy you also wrote a piece on, I believe, that's not excelling, Danny Salazar. Leaving a lot of pitches up in the zone. What does he need to do to bring it to get back to where he was last year and to get back to the Indians organization? Because he's in Columbus right now.
And he's struggling in Columbus to start. Danny needs to work on the slider a little bit. In my piece, I talked about, I believe he was, at the time, he'd given up 6 home runs. They were all on sliders. He obviously has a great fastball. He works in the high 90s. He can hit 100. His split changeup is a great offering. It's a very plus pitch. The slider, he has problems keeping it down in the zone, and he has problems keeping a lot of pitches down in the zone. I think that if he can work down in the zone more often, he can still use that high fastball and the changeup to get strikeouts, but he just needs to limit the home runs by keeping balls down in the zone and get a little better command of the slider.
Do you see him coming back to the Indians organization this year, especially with Bauer pitching so well and other players right now?
If he starts to pitch in AAA the way he pitched last year, I think it'll be hard for them to keep him down there. If he has the stuff to be a dominant MLB pitcher. He was a dominant MLB pitcher for almost a third of the season last year. If he starts to show that stuff again, you really can't let a guy like that toil in the minors. But like you pointed out, Josh Tomlin's come up and he's pitched well. Bauer's looking good. They can't make a spot for him if there's not one. But the second he starts to pitch well and there's a spot open for him in the rotation, I think they'll have him back up.
Now, we talked a little bit about the mound. What about on the plate? There's a guy that I want to talk about, Michael Brantley. I know you're not the biggest fan, admittedly.
I'm a fan of Michael Brantley. Up until recently, I have not been as big of a fan of Michael Brantley as many Indians fans have been. I always thought that he was more of an average left fielder who didn't hurt you in the defense, didn't hurt you on the bases or at the plate. He's always had a good swing, but it never really translated into the kind of results that I think make an elite left fielder. This year, I'm very glad, and I think all Indians fans are very glad that I'm being proved wrong in that. His line drive swing has started to turn some of the doubles into homers. He's getting on base. I think he has a 370 OBP. He's walking. He's hitting. He's leading the league in outfield assists. Like Kluber, there's really not much not to like about Brantley's game, and I'm pretty glad that he's proven me wrong.
Are there any statistics that have really, up for him this year? Have propelled him to this next level?
I don't think so. Not much that I've seen. It's really more of just, like I said, some of those doubles are starting to turn into homers, which is something that, a lot of guys that have those line drive swings that hit a lot of doubles, a lot of people say that, they may one day turn into homers, and I think that we're just seeing that with Brantley this year.
There's another guy, Lonnie Chisenhall, who's kind of proving everyone wrong. I think there was a point where everybody was like, oh, Lonnie Chisenhall not really showing up right now. He's proven everybody wrong. What is going on with him?
Well, I was wrong on Brantley saying that I thought he was average. I will, to my own credit, say that I will say that I've thought that all Chisenhall needed was regular playing time. He dealt with injuries in a couple of these 3 years he's been with the club. He's been back and forth between AAA and the bigs. He really hasn't had a chance, I think, to prove himself as an everyday player. And we're now seeing, I mean, just tonight he got another 2 hits off a lefty, including a home run. He's starting to use the whole field, which has really impressed me, to both righties and lefties. He's always been basically just a hitter against righties, and now I think he's 9 for 16 this year against lefties. He's really spraying line drives all field. I'm not certain. The last time I checked, he had the highest line drive percentage in the entire MLB. So that's a very encouraging sign as far as sustainability goes. With someone who's on this hot of a streak, you wonder if they can keep it going. The fact that he's hitting line drives, hitting lefties, and using the whole field leads me to believe that this may be, I mean, he's obviously not going to play quite this well all year, but I think that there's a new Lonnie Chisenhall that we're seeing, and I think he might be here to stay.
On the other side of the spectrum, Carlos Santana really struggling right now, but he's able to get on base. What do you think is more important, the fact that he's able to get on base, or does he just needs to start hitting the ball? Santana's
value is the fact that he can get on base. Obviously, right now, no amount of walks in the world can make a 150 or whatever batting average acceptable. He has gotten on base at a good enough clip with, I believe, his league-leading walk rate to keep him in the lineup. But as you mentioned, you know, I mean, you need to hit still. I think Carlos will eventually figure it out. He's certainly, I mean, he has that high leg kick, which can lead players to get their timing off a little bit. I think, I mean, maybe even this little 7-day DL stint could be a good thing for him. I mean, if he can come back and get his timing back, I mean, like I said, he hasn't hurt the Indians too bad in his ability to get on base amidst this slump. And so he's been a serviceable player despite his 150 batting average. If that can come up, and I think he'll be back to where he's been the last few years, one of the most consistent players for the Indians offense.
The final thing that I want to ask you about is the defense. Now, statistically, it's been awful, the worst in the league. What can they do to turn it around? I mean, is there anything at this point that's going to help them?
You know, that's the one part that I'm not sure looks good for the Indians for the future. I mean, really, coming into the year, if you would have looked at the roster construction, it wasn't hard to see a potential bottom 5 or maybe even bottom 2 or 1 defense. I mean, you've got Carlos Santana, a catcher, playing third base for the first time. Asdrubal Cabrera grades out, you know, with the advanced metrics, is arguably the worst defensive shortstop in the MLB. Jason Kipnis holds his own at second, but he's, again, a converted outfielder who's not great at second. And Nick Swisher looked good at first last year, and he's just been atrocious at first this year. So, you know, there's really not much, at least in terms of the infield. The outfield's not too bad with Bourne in center and Brantley in left. But in terms of the infield, there's really not much hope that I can see for really any of these guys suddenly becoming, you know, a good defender and turning this infield defense into a strong point for the Indians.
All right, August. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. And give yourself one final plug. You know, get yourself out there.
Yeah, my Twitter account is at August AUGUSTF_ABJ. And again, you could read my work on Ohio.com and Fangraphs. And thank you very much for having me on.
Well, when we get back, we'll take a look at all the rebranding efforts here at Akron with the Rubber Ducks and Canal Park. Stick around.
Hi, I'm Tony Lastoria from Indians Baseball Insider. The season has now begun, and the new IBI prospect book is available. Check out the 2014 Indians Baseball Insider book online at indiansbaseballinsider.com, or go to amazon.com, or check out the captains and other Indians minor league affiliates for information on the book.
I'm joined now by the general manager of the Akron Rubber Ducks, Mr. Jim Fanner. Thanks so much for coming on with us today.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, and we always enjoy having you guys come down here to the ballpark.
The first question I have for you is, the rebranding efforts is what we're going to talk about today, and something that really takes a lot of time. Can you talk a little bit about the process and how it came to fruition?
Sure, it's not something you jump into lightly. I mean, it's 17 years the ball club was named the Akron Arrows, and it was something that we kind of took a look at, and when Ken Babby took ownership of the team in 2012, and we spent the whole first year of his ownership just kind of going through and asking folks what the name Akron Arrows meant to them, and we really had a chance to team up with a branding company out of San Diego called Brandios, and they came in. They've worked with about a third of the minor league teams across the country, and we sat down, we met with season ticket holders, civic officials, and really key stakeholders in the franchise. And we said, okay, what does the name Arrows mean? And we would sit 15 people in a room, and we'd get 15 different answers. And we really knew that it was probably time to make a change when, you know, there wasn't one thing that people can identify with. The biggest difference between Major League Baseball and minor league baseball is that, you know, the players are controlled by the major league team. So, you know, you have a guy like Francisco Lindor, this year Jesus Aguilar, who, you know, hit 100 RBIs for us last year, and now he's playing in the big leagues with the Indians. So you can't really market around a player, but you have your image and your logo and is really your identity. And so we wanted something that really kind of spoke to three different levels. One, is it fun? It's minor league baseball. It's got to be fun. You got the Montgomery Biscuits and the Richmond Flying Squirrels, so they come up with fun team names. Two, does it appeal to kids? This is a kid's game. It's always has been, and for us, especially at the minor league level, you know, we market to families. Our biggest market interest, our families. So we want to make sure that it's something that kids can identify with. Say, Mom and my Dad, I want to go to a Rubber Ducks game. That would be great. And then finally, the third part, and probably the most important part, is to talk about the heritage and the history of the city. Akron's been the rubber capital of the world. This is the reason that I'm here. My grandfather worked in the rubber industry, probably a block and a half away from the stadium at Old B.F. Goodrich, and it really does. It kind of ties in very nicely the history of the city of Akron, but then a fun minor league baseball name. And so we came up with the name Rubber Ducks, and it was submitted in 2011 during a Name the Team contest, and we were able to bring it to life with the help of Brandy Ose, and it's been a big hit so far.
Now, you say it's been a big hit. I've also heard the negative side. How has it been like in terms of the polarization of the name? Have you heard good things, bad things? What have you heard?
Well, you know, it's funny. The first 3 days, and I think anytime you make a change, you know, gosh, you look at the Cleveland Browns, and they've had the same uniform for years and years. You know, this town doesn't like a lot of change, and I think anytime you make a change, there's always going to be folks that aren't used to the new name. But I'd say for about 3 days, it was really kind of put on your flak jacket, get ready for the big storm. But gosh, after that, I mean, people really, they got it, and I think it's the kids that got it. You know, it was, you know, at the press conference we had a third grade class from Crestwood Elementary, and they were there, and they immediately, as soon as we unveiled the name, they were so excited because they knew what a rubber duck was. And then it's the fun, you know, play on words, because you think of a rubber duck and you think of Bert and Ernie or a little, you know, squeaky yellow bath toy, but then you see the logo that they came up with, and it's like, wow, that's a pretty cool looking duck. That's a tough duck. And it really speaks to the ethos of the folks here in Akron. You know, just folks that are blue collar. They go to work with their lunch pail every day, and that's really what it's all about.
Now, that's one thing that you're talking about the kids. You know, when I first heard Rubber Ducks, I first thought about that bright yellow, the bright yellow rubber ducky. Is that something that you definitely tried to stray away from? Is that an image that you didn't want this team to be about?
Well, you know what? I think it's minor league baseball, so I think you can have some fun with it. But I think when we intentionally picked the uniform colors and the colors that the Rubber Ducks would be, we did downplay the yellow a little bit. But it's funny, when the first couple of uniforms came back, you know, yellow's got to be involved in one way or another. And the first one comes back, and it might look a little bit too close to the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can't have that. And then you have one that's too black and orange, and then you're like Cincinnati Bengals. But we can't have that. So it was really just kind of a lot of fun. And where the electric blue color, which is kind of a primary color for us, came from, and it's almost kind of a highlight in the logo. But where that came from was, we were trying to say, you know, gosh, we've got the yellow, we've got the black, and you know, we've got the orange, but we need something to kind of bring it all together. And I actually happened to be out at a pond near my house, and I noticed that on ducks they have these bright colored feathers, and one of the colors is like a very vibrant blue. So I went back, talked to the guys at Brandy O, said, you know, can we add another color? I don't know what it should be, but you know, I'm thinking blue, and they came back with this electric blue, and it was just one of those things where you said, oh my gosh, that's it. And we knew immediately we had a great look and then a great uniform color.
Now, how have sales been of merchandise in terms with the new look? I mean, I know it's a very popular kind of thing. As you said, it's all about fun. I'm sure fans have really enjoyed the new logo. How has the sales been in terms of, you know, hats, jersey, whatever? I mean,
sure, I think that's all part of the identity. I mean, anytime you know, you have a new look out there, I think people get excited about it. And boy, I tell you what, we had a lot of fun. Once we unveiled the new look and the new feel, we had people from all 50 states in the union have already bought merchandise, and so they're excited about it. You know, when you make a change like this, I think merchandise, you know, it's a factor, but it's not a huge bucket. I mean, your ticket sales and your sponsorship sales are really still the key parts of you know, an organization, and especially at the minor league level. But merchandise helps a little bit. But I think what's been most exciting is seeing so many fans coming to our games, coming to Rubber Ducks games, wearing their old Arrows gear, and then they leave and go home in the Rubber Ducks gear. That's when you know it's really caught on, and it's been a very popular name. In fact, we actually had a couple of teams in West Akron Baseball League, Wobble. They've named their teams the Rubber Ducks, and so we've sold a lot of merchandise that way too, because all these kids, they want to be just like the Rubber Ducks. So it's been fun to really see it kind of take a life of its own, and kids are so excited about it. So that, I think that's been a lot of a rewarding experience for us.
Now, speaking of kids, the motto here is affordable family fun. How has the new kind of mantra come into play in terms of the attendance? How has the attendance been thus far?
The attendance has been fantastic. I think the community has really just supported what we're doing here, especially with Ken Babby, our owner. You know, Ken, you know, this is his only franchise that he owns. He's a first-time owner. He moved here from D.C., and I think the fans have really responded to an owner that's here. He's immersed himself in the community. I'm from Akron. This is my hometown. So for me, this is nothing new. But it's been fun to see the folks that I know have just really embraced not only Ken, but also the approach that we've brought here. We're up 30% in attendance, which has been really great considering the weather that Northeast Ohio has faced the first 2 months of the season. But we've been doing really well. And what's fun about it, and what we really wanted to try to reconnect with, was the community here in Akron. The community is a big part of, you know, a friend of mine used to say, a ballpark needs a community more than a community needs a ballpark. And it makes a lot of sense. And we want to be the epicenter here in Akron of community, and we want people to really have a great time when they come out to the ballpark. So, you know, in addition to the identity change, we've made some great improvements here in the ballpark. We spent $5.5 million of privately funded through Ken Babby for improvements to the ballpark. So we've launched a new group area in left field, a tiki bar and a tiki terrace in right field. We ripped out the old metal bleachers that are always tough to sit in during the summer, and then also during the cooler months at the beginning of the season. And then we built a restaurant that's open 360 days a year, and it's called The Game, and that's really been. It's really caught on very well here. So it's almost, we're making these little pockets, these little experiences within the experience, and it's been a lot of fun to see the community respond.
Now, that's one thing that I was wondering about. Did the change in the logo and the name come first, or was it an effort to kind of, you know, take everything in stride? Was it the name and then the changes, or the changes and then the logo, or the park changes and then the logo? Which was the order?
Well, you know, I think we had always planned the park changes. This is something when Ken purchased the franchise, we sat down probably day one, and we said, okay, what are some things, what are some ways we can improve the fan experience? You know, Ken and I are both nuts about the fan experience from the moment a fan walks from their car into the ballpark until the minute they get back into the car. What a great fan experience they have. What a great time they have at the ballpark. And we always say that, you know, gosh, if you come to the ballpark and you have a $2 hot dog, and you have, you know, you watch sumo wrestling on the field, or you have a chance to meet, you know, Bob Mothersbaugh from Devo, like we did last Saturday night, and you forget what the final score is, we know we've done our job. I mean, it's about affordable family entertainment. And I think that's what's been really great, to kind of see the fans respond from that. But I really think we kind of had the physical changes in mind first, and then I think it was after that first year we really thought, okay, maybe now it is time to take a look at the logo and at our image, and to make that change.
Now, it just so happened that while all this is going on, you got a pretty good baseball team out on the field. That always helps too.
Absolutely.
What has that been like, to bring in all these changes and to have such quality on the field?
Well, you know, we always say that we control what happens on the outside of the white lines. We're responsible for the marketing, for the promotions, the ticket sales, the concessions, merchandising. That's all us. But what happens in between the white lines, we have no control over. But, you know, then the fan in you gets to come out a little bit, and, you know, just anybody who's been around baseball, it's so fun, it's so much fun to watch a great group of guys led by Dave Wallace. I mean, Dave's our manager, and he's a great leader in the clubhouse. And, you know, he didn't play that long ago, so I think he can draw on a lot of those experiences, those recent experiences, and really help his guys kind of come through, and really during the tough times. So I think teams usually take the personality of their managers, and Dave's a great guy. He's very positive, upbeat, and our team's been the same way, and they've been very loose. And so we've won a few games here in the first 2 months of the season. We've got a very good team, and it's been exciting to kind of see them compete very well. And you know, it's kind of the icing on the cake for us is to see a winning baseball team at the ballpark. So I think that's what's made it great.
Now, final question. You know, this year is pretty young still, but in the future, when you look at this team, will you look at what the changes in terms of the ballpark, in terms of the logo, will you look at those and make further changes, or are we kind of just set in our ways right now?
Well, I don't think we're going to make any changes anytime soon. I mean, I think we have, and I'm biased, of course, but I think we've got the best look in minor league baseball. I think we've got a great logo developed by the guys at Brandiose. And I think it ties in very well with our heritage history and a fun minor league logo. So I don't think we're going to make any changes to the identity of the team. And who knows what happens ballpark-wise down the road. I mean, we're always striving to find. We want to provide affordable family entertainment, and we want to be able to provide the best. And we have an amazing ballpark. This ballpark was built in 1997. It was the vision of Mayor Don Pasquale, who's the second longest tenured mayor in the country. And I mean, really, this is his baby. And so we were able to kind of take a great venue that had the bones. It just needed a fresh coat of paint. It needed those little things to really make it a great place for affordable family entertainment. And so we're always looking to see, okay, what can we do next? And so we're always challenging ourselves to see, boy, what can we do to really make the fans say, wow, what a great experience we had in Akron. We can't wait to come back.
Well, we've been telling you all summer long to get down to the ballpark. If that doesn't make you want to come down here, I don't know what will. Thanks again for coming on today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me.
I want to send another thank you to Mr. Rafander and to August for coming on the show this week. I certainly enjoyed having them on, and I hope you did as well. Be sure to look out for another episode of IBI On Site next week as we take you through another location within the Indians organization. Until then, I'm Hayden Grove. We'll catch you next time.